when you look at your organization today and you have a really clear path on what it's going to look like in 12 months, and ultimately we'll get to the point when it looks like in 5 years, did it help you to go through the process of saying, hey, here's who I need to hire, here's what my company's going to look like at 100% growth? Like, how did that help you to think through that today?
Well, I think as a CEO, you're usually typically the visionary. So you kind of know what it looks like looking down on things, but you don't have it on paper in front of you. So when you actually have the structure in front of you, what you think actually comes to reality, and you can use that as a playbook to actually start building it out. So I got to the point where I got in a really good routine of making a 12 months, or 12 months, and then 24 months, 36 months, and then ultimately 5 years of what it's going to look like. So when I write my goals in the morning, I'm writing 2020, I'm writing 2023, 2025, and then ultimately the end game.
Huh.
So I know what the end game is going to look like, and I just backed it all, reverse engineered it all, and said, okay, this is how many texts it's going to take. This is what the structure is going to look like. So I just write that down every single day so I know what it looks like going forward.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I've thought through it.
Company culture, to me, is incredibly important.
Yeah.
I try to emulate my company after some great companies. You got an incredible company culture at Pest Daily.
Yeah.
AAC Distributing, Tony and them have an incredible company culture there. So I'm learning from some of the best people, in my opinion, in the industry on how to build company culture. I see everybody that's working for you eat, sleep, breathe Pest Daily. From the shoes on their feet to the hats on their head and everything in between. So that's awesome. So I'm trying to emulate that in my own business because obviously it's successful. So.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, well, I mean, I figure if you feed people and you give them all their clothes, like you win, right?
Yeah.
The reality is in the pest control space, people that don't want to go for it, our industry dies. If it dies, the big companies take over. And so when I met you, you said, I'm going to go for it. I didn't believe you. And when you went for it, I was so proud, man. Like I was like this proud dad who I didn't even know you as a kid, right? If you're going to go talk to people, in their 20-year-old age group, they're 20 to 30, like, how does somebody like you just say, fuck it and go for it and go all in immediately? Like, what drives you, man? Just tell the world.
What drives me, dude, is straight up not giving a fuck. I think that pretty much is ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah.
I've taken enough chances in my life to understand that what's the worst that can happen.
Yep.
With my background and some of the experiences that I've had, once again, I've proved things to myself, and I know that no matter what, if I put my mind to something, I'll get through it and I'll persevere. Sorry to be so cliche, but it's reality. You know what I mean? I have a concrete list of things that I can remind myself that I've done before to let me know that I can do this too. The only way to break a fear is to face the fear.
If you had to give some advice to somebody who's in our industry who's trying to like shoot their own stuff, right? Because I mean, they might not have all these fancy cameras and skill sets like yours. Like, how would you tell them to go about like setting up a shoot so that audiences like really love it?
Okay. Number one piece of advice is just to do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be shiny. Just get out there in your truck, get your phone out, point it to your face, and press the go button. Because the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be doing it. And getting yourself out there, there's no bad press,
Yeah.
So just get out there and do it. It's fun.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Because like people ask us like all the time, like we're talking about like social media and all these things, and people are always like, man, it's so hard. How do we edit it? How do we get it perfect?
Yeah.
And what people don't realize about Pest Daily, and you know this, is like we said, it was like an idea. We're like, hey, let's just start shooting. Do you remember?
Yeah. And
you're like, just shoot, dude, just shoot. I'm like, I'm so nervous. And we just started doing it. And obviously we have the ability to edit it, but at the end of the day, the content was still there. So they just go shoot it. So then what? Because everyone's worried about editing and like, that's a big deal, right?
Editing's tough. I mean, it does take the most time out of your day, but again, just film it. It doesn't have to be that long. You can be super short. You could like write some notes down to figure out what you're going to say, stick to some bullet points and just get it out there. And you can do as many times as it takes.
Yeah. Especially in today's world.
Yeah.
I mean, think about back in the day. Like,
there's a lot of apps like on your phone that can pretty much do it for you. I mean, there's always YouTube. That's pretty much how I learned how to do everything, even though I went to art school.
We're watching companies expand like crazy. We're watching the value of wildlife companies skyrocket. We're watching people win all over the place. And so like, from your perspective, working with all these guys, like what are some of the more innovative things you're seeing them do today? Like what is some of the more innovative, maybe business practices or methodologies they're using? And I know it's kind of a hard question to answer.
So with one of the things that we're seeing trending over the last couple of years, you know this as well as anybody, you work on a daily basis with some of this. The acquisition side is, wildlife is gaining in acquisitions. And I think that one of the big trends that we're seeing is we're starting to see wildlife guys who are understanding the value of recurring revenue.
Yes.
Some of them are doing it by diversifying, going into GPT or GPC and doing general pest control. Some are seeing more of the value in the renewal warranties, where they're not just saying we have a 1-year warranty. Now they're saying, hey, we have a lifetime renewable warranty. This is how much it is every year. So really seeing that shift in bringing the renewable income back into their business, which I think is a great. Pest control's been doing it since inception. So to see guys who are going into a year with 6 figures on the books, that are already there. That's income that's already coming in for the year. That right there alone is. Wildlife is so up and down. Weather is so unpredictable, which means that busy times that should be busy sometimes maybe aren't busy. So, as an operator, if I was still in the field today, like that would be my driving force, would be that, so that I had that safety net that if things slow down, like I still have work for my guys. They're still going out there. They're still doing that. Still coming in.
I am not one of those wealth advisors that say, "Oh, Seth, you have a really successful pest control company. It's throwing off all this money. Why don't you give that money to me and I can invest it and I can make money off of you?" I realize that you as a pest control owner, reinvesting as much as you can back into that business, as long as you're generating a good incremental return, it's leading to growth. It's leading to higher retention. You can open a new branch, right? So doing these things that are ultimately going to increase the size of your business, which increases the multiple that someone's willing to pay for it. So I fully encourage that, right? If I was managing money for someone and they came to me and said, "Hey, I want to buy real estate for my pest control operation." And I was like, whoa, that's going to like take fees away from me. Maybe you should lease that building, right? Like that's absolutely the wrong approach and not what we do. We'll do the opposite, which is help them analyze that purchase and talk to them about, okay, do you want to own that inside your pest control business? Actually, we would recommend owning it in a separate LLC that you own. Do a cost segregation study to get some bonus depreciation and be as tax efficient, which ultimately increases your cash flow.
As long as I've known you, you've always said the same thing to me. Hey, I want the job after 5 other companies have messed it up. You've always said that to me. And honestly, like to me, from a rational business perspective, I'm like, that's crazy. Because I want to be the first one out there, but you're like, nope, let's let everyone go.
Usually at that point, your customers are really they're at wit's end. And just because I'm a little bit more technical and we have a really broad scope of things that we can do, it just really, it allows me to, without the hindrance of, oh, well, this guy bid this and this guy says that. Now they understand, okay, I've got the expert here. And he's going to give me the right solution for our situation.
And I remember the first time you talked to me about it, you said, listen, you go, if I come in number 5, like there is no price negotiation. It's like, you're like, these people are in a desperate situation. And at this point, they've seen it all, done it all. And then you're able to get your price is really what it comes down to.
Exactly.
Which ultimately is the most important, right?
Sure. My price, and I'd say also the full cooperation of the customer. They're going to do whatever we ask them to do at that point.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing because that's something that I think we always struggle in as our industry is like, we go out to educate these customers and then we're like, education, but then the customer actually doesn't do shit to help us out, right? And that's like a big problem for us because if you think about the feedback loop from a customer service standpoint or reviews or whatever, is like we could tell them to do 1,000 things and they don't do it, but then whose fault is it? It gets put on us as a company or as operators,
Exactly.
We are successful because I tell my guys I exhausted every failure. So I sucked up all those rocks. You just have smooth sailing. So I empower my guys. I give them the knowledge. I train, and then I want them to go fail. Because failure in my company is not a bad thing. It's not a 4-letter word. All of the best things has come because I have failed. I want my guys to fail. It's an opportunity to learn and improve. I fell into this business. A squirrel died in a plumbing stack and a buddy needed help because he knew I knew how to get in an attic. And I had this business. I didn't know this industry was around. I watched that guy cut the plumbing stack open, take that squirrel out, put a boot in it. We go downstairs. That old lady wrote a $300 check. I remember this. She wrote a $300 check, handed it to him, tears in her eyes, gave him a huge hug, gave me a huge hug and said, "Thank you." We got in the truck and I go, "Dude, she paid you and she was happy to do it. This is a thing." And he's like, "You can't keep up." He's like, "You just can't." So I was like,
I'm the wildlife guy.
I'm in.
If we look back 10 years ago, you went and named your company Salazar Pest Control, Walter Salazar Pest Control, right?
Yep.
Super creative, by the way. Super creative. So if you went back and thought about this, would you have named your company Walter Salazar, or would you have went with something different?
Where I'm at now, like mentally, it's like it's awesome because now like people can reach out to me on Facebook and they'll send me a message like, hey, Walt, I got this bug, and they'll send me a picture of like bug or like poop or something and be like, hey, what is this? You know what I mean? And back in the day, I used to let it get to me, but now I just kind of let my customers know like, hey, you don't work on the weekend or you got your time off, I have my time off as well. I'll respond back to you when I have a free minute. And if my wife and I aren't doing anything or I'm not doing anything with the family, like I take that time and I'll just send them a quick message. Hey, Miss J, I'm sorry, Miss J, if you're watching this, but I'll say, hey, Miss J, like, I received your message. This is what I think it is. Try this and see if it works. And if it doesn't, call the office on Monday and I'll get somebody out there. So now I look at it that Facebook is such a major market for us that we don't really do hardly any advertising down there. And I like it now. So like first what I was complaining about, I kind of like have grown to like, this is me, you know?
Quickest way to the exit door in my company is if you lie to a customer and sell them something they don't need.
Yeah.
Straight up. I mean, I've got customers that I've gone to and said, you don't need my services.
Yep.
And at some point you will, just keep me in mind. And they do. At the end of the day, that's, I want to be able to go to bed at night and sleep. And not have to worry about, did I screw this customer over, or oh, I got over on that one.
Yeah, I remember when I was up in Kingston and we got in the car and I was like, let's go on a sales call. Do you remember? Mm-hmm. And I remember going to those people's houses from California, and you're going through the inspection and I'm walking around this house. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, man, we could sell them everything. We could sell them everything. This is great. And I remember us going through the basement of that house, and that guy goes, what are all these holes? What are all these holes? And you're like, those are powder post beetle holes, but you don't have an infestation. And I can tell you this, that level of integrity is incredible. And I remember the level of trust that those guys immediately had for Pest Masters and for the way that you handled it.
I'll go out to your house and I'll do the inspection, and I may be $450 to anywhere to $800 on the initial service. And, it's a bird in the hand's worth two in the bush. You can sell it over the phone for $250 and move on. You've developed no relationship with the client whatsoever. Okay. We pull up, oh, let me grab your garbage cans and pull them in for you. Let me pick up that newspaper and take it to you. Key account, pick up the Amazon packages and bring them inside the house. And let the customer know you did that. Well, how they're not going to remember, but when you call them to give, and these are on estimates. These are just stuff that we do on estimates. And, call them up and say, hey, this is what I found. This is what you need to be doing. By the way, your pool guy's here now draining the pool cover because we've had 6 inches of rain last week, and I brought in your Amazon packages because they were getting wet. Oh, thank you so much. And they remember that. At the end of the day, they remember that. And that's how we've grown our business from 1 person to 38.
Well, I mean, here lately, I'm getting big into being more disciplined and having a morning routine and just, really having my mental and being focused. But I mean, in my core thought process of everything I do, and I really try to stay true to this, is how can I help a bunch of people today? How can I help the most people be the best person? What can I do to impact people's lives to make their life better today? Yeah. I'm a big subscriber to that. The more people I can help, I feel like what I want will just come to me. Yeah. I'm more of the mindset of let me attract it and not chase it. And the best way I feel to do that is by helping other people. So I'm always looking for services, or even with my customers, to make it more convenient, to make it easier with my employees and just anybody I can impact in my life.
Like, how do you help someone start to think that way?
For me, it starts, I'm a Christian, right? So it boils down to my principles, and it is a Christian principle. Though I think one of your CEOs said it on stage. I believe it was Truly Nolan, who's doing 100 and whatever, just one of the largest, most well-known brands in our country. And everybody was being complicated, all these CEOs. And of course, we got to do all the good stuff, the KPIs. But when she boiled it down to one thing, when they really pressed her, she said, it's not that hard. At the end of the day, just do the golden rule. That's what she said. And this is a CEO of a $120 million company. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Yeah. And that's simple, and that can be difficult as you're scaling and you're doing different things. And, and as you grow, expectations change what people want from you. But at the end of the day, man, just really try to impact people and don't chase. I think you kind of said it, like don't chase the money.
Yeah.
Do the thing to help the person, or because you love it, or because you're passionate about it. Focus in on that thing, and you'll actually make more money if you're not focused on just making the money.